What's going on, guys? It's Megan and welcome to my freaking YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be starting this YouTube channel. It's been something I've been thinking about doing for the longest time, but have been kind of apprehensive about just because I'm an OCD perfectionist by nature, and I felt like I needed to have the perfect backdrop and an HD camera and like a ring light in order to have a successful YouTube channel. But I finally have put all of those things aside and decided to start this channel. And so I'm very excited. It's mostly just as kind of a little preface to the video you guys are about to watch. It's going to be me sitting here talking still, but I just want to give you guys a little, not a recap, but a pre-cap. I don't know, is that a thing? It sounded like a rap for a second. Dang! Hey, the coffee is hitting! Anyway, I wanted to make this channel to kind of, I feel like I have a lot of things down. I've been an amputee for 9 years and I've learned a lot of things on the way. And when I first became an amputee, there was like zero content on the internet for how to do things one-handed, especially like putting up your hair or tying your shoes. And I know there's more of that these days than there was back in 2009 when I lost my arm. But I just feel like I can do it better. Just kidding, but also not really kidding at all. So that's why I'm here, because I want to make a difference and I want to be able to help people and make people who are unable to use their arm at the moment or, don't have their arm like me. I want to make your guys' lives a little bit easier because I feel like mine has become like 100% easier, maybe like 90% easier since I lost my arm. So here I am, and I thought it would be fitting for me to make my very first YouTube video be the story of how I lost my arm. So I'm just going to jump right in and tell you guys, because personally I don't like it when you think you're going to be watching a video about freaking how to barbecue a steak correctly, but then it's like 10 minutes of
this guy talking about how he barbecued fish before and chicken, but
you're like, well, when do I get to know how you barbecued steak? You know what I mean? Like, when
I was sitting there talking about, thanks for subscribing and liking, and thanks for all the comments on my last video, and the second video, and the third video, and here's what I'm going to do for my next video. I was like, just tell me about steak. You know what I mean?
Like, I just want to know how you lost your arm, dude. And a lot of you probably fast forwarded through this anyway, and I'm not even mad about it because I'm literally being a hypocrite by doing what I just said I don't appreciate. So anyway, here it goes, guys, and I hope you enjoy. I lost my arm to a shark. I wish I lost it to a shark. That would be like super. Anyway, I didn't. It wasn't a shark. I was in an ATV accident in 2009. I was on a Polaris RZR, which is like a side-by-side dune buggy with a roll cage. Maybe I'll edit a picture in here so you guys can see it. But anyway, it was 2009. I was 14 years old. It was my freshman year of high school. And I had gone out ATVing with some of my friends. It was like 3 days after Christmas, and we just went out because we had nothing better to do. And so I swerved too hard to the right, and my back end started to kind of fishtail out. So I was facing this rock pile that realistically the thing could have crawled right up. But I panicked and overcorrected my turn and turned too hard to the left. And so instead of it just straightening back out, the two left tires caught on the gravel, and as it was falling, I stuck my left arm out as a reaction, and the roll bar came down and landed on my shoulder. So my friend who was in the passenger seat flew out. He and another one of our friends came and lifted the RZR off of me, and I was laying, after it was off of me, was laying on the ground, and like as a former wrestler, I call it referee's position when I'm telling the story. But basically I was on my knees, and my one forearm and my left arm was it was inside my jacket because it was cold, like late December in Washington State. So my left arm was still in my jacket, but it was like twisted, like almost like an owl's head, how it turns all the way around. Like I could just tell my arm was like twisted a little too far around. But at the time, I was in shock. So basically what happens when your body undergoes significant trauma like that, your nerves actually shut off. So the nerves are there to tell you what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and when it's like that severe of an injury and like that much pain, your body goes into shock and it shuts down all your nerves. So I couldn't feel a thing. And a lot of people, Asked me if I cried when I lost my arm. The answer is no, but I probably would have if I could have felt it. I just couldn't feel it. So my friends came over, lifted it off of me, and I had to wait probably for about 20 minutes for paramedics to get there. I remember, like, literally it was chaos. Like, one friend was on the phone with 911, one friend was on the phone with their dad, one friend was on the phone with my dad. Like, it was just complete chaos, and I was in complete shock. And so I was just like, can you guys, like, be quiet? Like, can you guys calm down? Like, I think something bad just happened, and you're just stressing me out right now. So, anyways, fast forward 20, 25 minutes, and the paramedics show up. They get there and they cut up the back of my jacket, open it up, assess the injury, see that it's pretty freaking bad. And I remember one of them saying, like, we don't have time to stabilize. So I think what that means is just, like, stabilize me on a stretcher, because they just literally, like, carried me kind of into the ambulance and transported me to just, like, the local hospital. And then from there I was airlifted to Harborview Medical Center in Seattle. So I was fortunate enough to have the most gorgeous paramedic keeping me alert on this ambulance ride. Like, I know his name, but I'm not going to say it for his privacy. Most beautiful man. But I remember, like, I think the first thing I said when I was in the ambulance was like, I don't have health insurance or something like that. And I remember one of them saying, like, sweetheart, that is the least of your worries. Like, we got, like, bigger fish to fry right now. We can worry about your little health insurance deal later, but you're dying, so let's just not focus on that right now. So anyway, this beautiful man was holding his hands on either side of my face, and they were saying, like, where's the blood? Where's the blood? So this is kind of a little aside, but, like, a year later, I ran into this paramedic in the gym or something, and he was like, I'm so glad to, like, see you here working out and being active, because, like, we still remember your story, because we had brought a coroner out to your accident site because we thought you were going to be dead from the report. And when we got there and got you into the ambulance, the coroner was, like, terrified of you. Like, you freaked a guy out whose job it is to go pick up dead bodies for a living, because I was still talking and my arm was 98%, later I found out 98% amputated from my body. So, and this is, like, the most miraculous part of my entire story, and the reason I feel like I was kept here for a reason and have a guardian angel, and, like, this was 100% supposed to happen to me. And that is because when the roll bar came down and landed on my shoulder, it dislocated the shoulder. And essentially there's, like, two main arteries that run right here in your shoulders. They're called your brachial arteries. And mine was pinched. So when the shoulder dislocated, it pinched that brachial artery completely closed, and I literally didn't bleed out of it at all. So, which is just, like, insane that happened, because the bleed out time for that artery, I guess, is less than 2 minutes. And so the fact that the coroner was scared, I mean, it makes sense. Like, why is that girl's arm hanging off her body? She's still talking to us. Like, is she, like, an alien? Like, what's going on? So anyway, I'm like, so fortunate that happened. A lot of people are like, oh, aren't you bummed because, you know, that's probably the reason why you lost your arm. And I'm like, no, like, yeah, it cut off blood supply, but it's the reason I didn't lose my life. So, you know, and that's just perspective. Personally, I think it's just perspective. Like, yeah, I could think, like, oh, well, if the brachial artery wasn't severed, maybe the blood flow would have stayed. But, you know, you can't think like that. I thought a long time, like, I spent a lot of my life wondering, like, what if, or why me? And it's just an energy suck, and it's just not a good healthy way to live your life. So we're out with that, and we're positive, and I am genuinely like, it's not that I have to, like, you know, manipulate my perspective or justify anything. Like, I genuinely feel lucky to be alive. So anyways, we get to the hospital, and the paramedics get me into the air vac. And I don't know if any of you have ever been airlifted, or, like, are in medical school, or, like, a paramedic, or have had to ride on one. But my experience in these things, which also, sorry, I'm very ADD, so I hope you can keep up. The reason why I was able to remain conscious the entire time was because I didn't lose that much blood. So I'm still conscious, and I'm getting into this air vac, which essentially, like, I don't know if you guys have ever watched, like, CSI crime shows, but, like, the drawers where they, like, hold the dead bodies where they like wait to get autopsied, like those big, I said autopsied, weird, autopsied, like those cooler rooms with like the drawers with the dead bodies in them. That's what it feels like to be put in a medevac from my perspective. Like it literally feels like they're just like shoving you into this drawer, like you're on your stretcher and they just whoosh, like there you go. So I remember like getting into this helicopter, and once we're in the air, I have two female British paramedics on either side of me. And we're like 5 or 10 minutes into the ride, and they're like, Amanda, darling, can you hear me? And I was like, Amanda's not my name. So here I am like, I think I got put in the wrong helicopter. Like, I didn't know. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone, or like some weird was going down. I was like, wrong helicopter. My name's Megan. And then after that, they go, oh, sorry, Elizabeth, darling. Like, is there a chance that you could be pregnant? And I'm like, that's not my name. Like, I think that was like where my panic really started to set in, because I'm like, do they, like, what is happening? Like, that is not, I'm not Amanda or Elizabeth. I'm Megan, and this is not okay. So anyway, I had like talked to my mom about that later, and she said that maybe it was just them trying to, like, a way to keep me alert or something. But I'll tell you, it worked. Good job, ladies. I was freaking alert. So I pretty much remember just landing in the helicopter and then getting rushed out to, like, taken off the helicopter and into the OR, and then they put me under anesthesia. And I went through 40 hours of consecutive surgery to try and salvage my limb, so save my arm. And yeah, 40 consecutive hours. So that just means like the surgeons were just like tagging in. They're like, all right, go to lunch, John. Like, I'll see you tomorrow or whatever. I don't know what was happening. 40 consecutive hours. So my poor family waited that long, which, why does my hand look blue right now? I think it's because I'm in blue denim. I think it might have rubbed off on my knuckles. So I'm probably, that looks like, literally, talk about dead body. Ew. Ew. Promise my hands don't normally. Doesn't normally look like that. So anyways, they get me out of surgery, they reattach my arm, and they get a pulse in my arm. And so pretty much like there was a really optimistic vibe. I will say that like once I came out of surgery was when I really realized what had happened to me, because prior to waking up from my first very long surgery, I had thought I just had a stinger, which is essentially like when you hit your funny bone and you can't feel your arm for several days. I thought that was what had happened to me. So talk about thinking that you just got a stinger and couldn't feel your arm, to like knowing that it was ripped off your body is like a little bit of it's a shocker, I'll tell you that. So yeah, it's a shocker to say the least. So anyway, I woke up and they kept me in this room. I don't know what they called it. It was like fancy name for like this room that they kept over 79 degrees or something, which is essentially to promote blood flow. So I woke up in this room. Jack Johnson Pandora was playing, like literally like Better Together was playing, and like these memories don't even seem like they really happened sometimes. Not because I just tell them all the time and they're like scripted now. I shouldn't say that, but they kind of are, because people, you know, ask questions and you tell it so many times it almost just becomes like a script that you say. But I don't tell people this part very often. Jack Johnson Pandora was playing, and I wake up in this like sauna room. Like, I swear this room was so hot. And my left arm is in like 11 layers of gauze, and my left hand looks like a latex balloon when you blow it up. Like, it was so fat because they had pumped so much saline into my body for whatever reason. I don't know, you medical people who are watching this probably know. So I was very, very swollen. Like, I looked like I had gained 40 pounds. And I did, like, literally gain 40 pounds in water weight. So I had drain tubes in my nose and in my lungs, and like I was a mess. And I would show you guys a picture, but my family deleted it. They didn't like looking at me that way. So I get out of surgery. I'm in this sauna room, and still in the ICU. Like 4 days later, I get moved out of the sauna room, and I'm laying in my hospital bed, and my mom, I think, was the only other person in the room. So I'm kicked back in my hospital bed, and my mom is like in a chair across the room, and I just see like a stream of red in my peripherals. So like, mind you, I'd been on a morphine drip, because when, you know, you freaking get your arm ripped off your body, you get some morphine. So I'm getting like morphine from Button every 5 minutes. So I see this stream of like blood coming out of my shoulder, and in the most monotone voice, I remember just being like, "Hey mom, I think something's wrong." And this woman's book spirals through the air. She sprints out, and 6 doctors come in, unlock my hospital bed wheels, and roll me to the OR. Basically, what had happened was that brachial artery that had been pinched in the accident ruptured from the pressure, and I was bleeding out. And I actually ended up having to get like 30 or 40 blood transfusions, which is just like an insane amount of blood. And they were able to get me out of that surgery alive. Almost died on the operating table. And once they got me out of that surgery, amputation kind of became the only answer. And it wasn't my only option, but basically the way that they pitched it to me was that, listen, like, we can try and keep saving your arm, but they had already grafted skin. Mind you, they had already grafted skin and muscle, part of my lat and part of my serratus off my back to put like kind of on like the mangled part of my arm, and they had performed what's called like a fasciotomy. So they make an incision from the armpit to the wrist, to prevent like literally an explosion that can happen. Like your limb can explode from the blood pressure. So they cut open my arm, and then they put skin from my back, they put muscle from my back, and they had stitched my back up too tight. So now my back couldn't get enough blood flow because it was stitched so tight, and so that was failing. And my arm was like failing. Like everything it was bad. It was a really, really bad week. So a week later, after being in the hospital, they're like, listen, we can try and keep saving your arm, but we're going to have to take skin off of your thigh. We're going to have to graft nerves out of your calves. You're not going to be able to feel parts of your feet, and we can't even like really promise you that it's going to work. Like, you're still going to have to like have a sling for at least like 6 months. And they were telling me that people come back in like 6, 8, 10 years later to get their arm amputated, and I'm just like, I'm gonna tap out right here. Like, take this sucker off of me. It literally felt like I was sleeping with a wet Shih Tzu because they had to come in every day and douse the arm with like saline. Ugh, awful, horrible memories. Not fun. So I made the decision to amputate, and it was my parents and I. We were in my hospital room with a couple of the surgeons, and they were like, listen, we know that this is a really hard decision for a 14-year-old to make. We know that this is, it's going to change your life, and it's going to be hard, but like, here's your options. And I was like, I don't want you cutting my legs. I don't want to be here anymore, because it would have extended my hospital stay another month. I was like, just take it off. Like, it was so easy for me to just be like, get it off. And sure enough, once they amputated it, it felt crazy. I'll explain that in another video. But I essentially was like out of the hospital in 2 weeks. Like, I was able to like get up. This is kind of gross, I had bowel movements again, because like, you literally like don't poop when you're in the hospital because you have so much medication. There's a lot of nasty that goes down in hospitals, and like all of my praise to medical professionals, because you guys are like the goats when it comes to that stuff. I could never do that for a living. But so yeah, a lot of respect for y'all in the medical field. Anyway, I amputated my arm, and I went home, and the grieving process is just gonna have to be in another video. But that is the story of how I lost my arm, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. If you have questions, like, I'm so willing to answer them. I love talking about my story and what happened to me, and so if you're curious, drop me a comment, and I will 100% respond to you as soon as I can. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys made it here. If you did, then go ahead and click subscribe, because this is just the beginning, and I'm going to be making a lot more videos and producing a lot more content that's not just like in my parents' dining room, like, on my phone. I'm gonna be stepping up my game. So I hope you guys liked it, and here's to a prosperous 2018, and Happy New Year, guys.